Welcome, Zoe, to News Laundry. Everybody on our team has been calling you Zoe because we do not know how to pronounce Zoe.
All the time.
Really?
Yeah, often. It's because, you know, there's an umlaut on the E. So to make it E, Zoe, but there's also a way of pronouncing which is Zoe. There's a famous actress in America called Zoe Caldwell. So I'm forever, people are shouting out in doctors' offices, Zoe Heller. And worse is Zoo.
That's bad. What does Zoe mean?
Zoe is life in Greek.
Wonderful.
Yes, that's a lot to live up to, right? It could be worse. It could have been, you know, beauty, Venus.
That's pressure.
Yeah.
Your picture that you gave to the Jaipur Literature Festival has a little kid on the side poking her tongue out.
So what that was, I told them, this is the only thing I have, just chop her out. They didn't, they just thought it was funny.
Of course not, because it's great fun.
It's funny, so I was having a byline photo taken. I'd written a piece for a newspaper and they said, have you got a byline photo? And I didn't have one. So a friend who was a photographer came round and I was sitting in my kitchen. So I was doing, you know, being very self-conscious and wait a minute, powdering my nose. And we just got me in the right position and my daughter jumped up. And it was a nice picture. I have that on my kitchen wall.
Very important to keep the irreverence straight.
But she loves that she is now in this thing, you know.
Yeah.
She's very proud of herself.
For her too. You're a mother.
Yes.
Of two kids? Two kids. And you've been writing reviews that have been quite scathing, right? And you got an award for the worst review or something for Salman Rushdie's.
No. There's some. I'm not sure what this is. Apparently, there is a website in England that has set up a prize called the Hatchet Job of the Year.
You got the Hatchet Job
I haven't won it. No, I haven't won it. I believe I am shortlisted. I have that.
How exciting!
Yeah.
But I love your response.
I can't claim I'm deeply excited. Yeah.
That I'm aiming for the suck up.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, there's something real there. See, it's crazy, right? Because I really don't think I wrote a hatchet job. I think I set out to write what I really thought, but I didn't do it with any great malice or aggression. And in the same way that I might write a favorable review of something, I wouldn't be doing it in order to, you know, curry favor with the subject of the review. So it all seems a bit mad, and it does seem there's something crazy about setting up an award to celebrate and reward vitriol, you know.
Do you know Salman Rushdie?
No, I mean, I think I've met him at parties, but no, not a pal.
So you didn't have the burden
certainly not
of
a pal
trashing
now.
a friend?
No.
What did you actually think of the book?
Well, I wrote sort of 2,500 words about it, so...
But just so that our viewers know.
What did I think of the book? I had
2,000 words in one sentence.
I had some problems with the positions he takes on the way in which other people behaved during the fatwa, the way in which some of his colleagues behaved. I thought he was not kind in the way he describes his colleagues. And I thought he was a little uncharitable to some of his colleagues. But more important than those things, which is what that's the stuff that people tend to have picked up on, or his uncharitable descriptions of his ex-wives. Actually, the bulk of the piece is about his descriptions of the role of fiction and what, as far as I can tell, is what he regards as literature's immunity from political or religious anger. And I take issue with his line on that.
You think that that writers should be sensitive to?
No, it's not that. I absolutely believe that literature must be free to offend, and that the only, if you're offended by somebody else's speech, the only answer to that is more free speech. I'm absolutely with him on the importance of free speech, the ultimate importance of free speech. What I don't think is that literature has a special right to free speech. I think if you're for free speech, you're for the freedom of bad writers to write freely, of fascists to write freely. What he says both explicitly and implicitly in this book and elsewhere is that he was owed some special defense because he was a great writer, a great writer of literary fiction. And I think he was absolutely, it was important to defend him, but not as a novelist, but as somebody who was allowed to say what he said.
In your own books, you have written from a male point of view.
Yeah.
How? I mean, how do you get into it? Why did you use that device?
I mean, I've also written from, I've changed genders, but I've also written from the point of view of a woman much older than me, and from the point of view of children. It seems to me if you're a fiction writer, you're in the business of placing yourself imaginatively in the heads and bodies of other people, and that I don't think gender is necessarily a greater leap than other kinds of leap. But it does seem to interest people more than, people are always fascinated by the idea of whether that's doable, whether men can really write from the point of view of a woman or vice versa. It seems to me, I mean, I don't say that I necessarily have done it successfully, but it seems to me it's perfectly possible to do it, yes.
It's a challenge or it comes easy?
No, in a sense not. I sort of think that there's this adage that young fiction writers are always given, young students of writing are always told that, write what you know. And I think in some measure it's absolutely true. One has to write what one knows. But it's not necessarily to be taken literally. It doesn't necessarily mean that you must only write about what you have literally experienced. Then everyone would be sort of reduced to writing sort of disguised autobiography. Yeah. There's sort of an emotional truth, about that's quite large, I think, it seems to me.
Who are the writers that have influenced your writing?
Well, it's a vast number. Everyone from, George Eliot to Joseph Roth to Charles Dickens, to Jane Austen.
That's a range.
Yeah. But I mean, the truth is, what I'm really describing is the people I love to read, and I'm assuming that somehow it's sort of gone in. But I'm not sure I would be so fancy as to kind of claim them as my models.
Are you familiar with Indian fiction writing?
Not really, I regret to say.
What do you think of the Jaipur Literature Festival?
I think it's really, I'm sort of amazed by how, I haven't gone to an enormous, I'm not a great festival goer, because it seems to me it's very easy to fall into a trap of kind of, you could go to a festival sort of 3 times a year and never get any writing done. But I've gone to a certain number of festivals, and there are some, it's easy to put on a badly run festival, and this is a huge endeavor at this point. And it just seems to me immaculately run. I mean, and every last detail is, so it's just a beautiful experience because everything runs very smoothly. And the panels and things, I think, there's real thought that's gone into figuring out, putting together the people and coming up with the topics. Again, often one goes to festivals where you sort of feel as if someone the night before has sat down and written things down the back of an envelope. Okay, why don't we get X together with Y and they can talk about...
That's exactly how they do it.
And here you actually have a sense of real consideration going into the topic discussions, and you've also got some really excellent moderators. And sort of moderators, I think, are the key, the people who sort of marshal things. Because
did you get good questions?
Yes, I've only done, I'm trying to think, all gets to be a bit of a blur. I've had some great questions, and I probably prefer being part of a panel to being on my own, because it's a little bit scary being on your own. It's like a deer in the headlights. But yeah, no, it's been good. I like the camaraderie of being in a group up on stage.
Well, thanks very much, Zoe.
Thank you very much for having me.